Okay, so we've done config files and now we finished with layouts, setting up a layout. So I've got my layout here. I've got all those config files saved out and put in my default. So now what I want to do is I'm going to create a little custom toolbar. And so we're going to use add to our layout, and then in addition to that, we're going to add some buttons and things like that onto our toolbar. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is figure out where do I want to put my toolbar. I'm going to put one right here, just kind of to the side of this. So what I'm going to do is go Layout, Window, New, Normal, and it gives me this right here. I'm just going to click and drag and drop it right there. And so I didn't split it because if I split this, it will give me two tabbed windows, and I didn't want a tabbed window. I just wanted a blank one. So I'm going to do this and just kind of have it there. And so I've got my preview, 3D model, okay, all that. Now what I need to do is populate this with some stuff, and I want to customize this. And so I'm going to use the form editor to do that. So I'm going to go to System, Form Editor, and here all the toolbars, everything you see that's built in the interface is kept in here. All the different pie menus, all the different menu bars and the toolboxes and item properties and how to, all these layout things that you see are all in here. So they're all called forms, and I want to create a form that will fill this box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say create new form. I'm going to call it Berries Render Tools. Okay, and there's no parent. I don't care about it going under a parent. It's going to go under ungrouped. So I'm going to hit OK. Now what I've got here is I've got this new form called Berries Render Tools. And there's nothing in it, so it's just there. And if I say preview form, there's nothing there because there's no controls or anything in there. So what I want to do is I want to create a button where I can choose what camera I want to be able to render from. So say in your scene you have a front and a back and a left and a right camera. I want to choose which one. I want to have, when I choose it, I want the render camera to be set to that camera. And then I also want a button to just render the scene. And so I want to create those two buttons. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go New Control. Click on it, say Add Command. And this one's going to be just the render button. And when you click on render or you hit F9, the command to render is just render. So I'm just going to type render. So I'm going to hit OK. Now you'll notice the command here says render, but I don't have a label for it. So I'm going to call it, say, render image. Okay, so now that's there. So if I go preview form, there it is. And if I click it, it brings up the render window. Okay, there we go. So that's the first one. And I can use that, no problem. I can add a custom icon to it. I can add an icon and then take the label off of it, so now it's just a button with an icon. And if it has a hotkey assigned to it, it will show the hotkey there if it fits. Okay, so I'm going to show the label. So now what I want to do is I want to create basically a button where when I click it, it drops down all the different cameras and I can pick which one I want. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create some commands. I'm going to say New Control, Add Command, and the command to switch to set a render camera is just render dot camera space name of the camera. So camera front. Okay, and I'm going to name this front camera or render front. Okay, so now if I go preview form, I see two buttons. I see render image and render front. Okay, but I want to add some things to this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just duplicate this and duplicate it and duplicate it and then duplicate it one more time. So what I'm going to have is I'm going to have front, back, left, right, and then perspective 3/4. Okay, so I'm just going to go through these. Render back, and then change this. Now these will only work if I have cameras in my scene named camera back, camera front, etc. Okay, so you have to make sure that the scene that you have is going to have that. So like in a production environment, if I have a default scene that I always start with a certain amount of cameras, I open up that scene, that default scene, and these will all work. Okay, so I'm going to do this, render right, and change camera front to camera right. Okay, and then this one, render left, camera left. Okay, and then this one's going to be render 3/4. Okay, and I'm going to call this one 3/4. Okay, so I've got all these, and I go preview form. So I click on my form and I say preview it. Now it's just a bunch of buttons, but what I want is I want a separate button for this and then a single button that will give me all these options. So it's pretty simple. All you do is you go Barry's Render Tools, whatever this form is, right click, or sorry, say create new subform and call it render camera chooser. Okay, so what I've got now is I've got a subform that's a child of this form, and what I want to do is if I look preview form, oops, there's nothing in there, but if I do this, you'll notice it's all these buttons, and then there's this other form that has nothing in it. So I want to change that. I want to take all of these and I want to click and drag them into that form. Okay, so now what I've got, if I look at this form, I've got a render image, and then I've got render camera chooser, front, back, right, left, 3/4. Okay, really simple. Okay, but what I want to do is I don't actually want it to look like this. I don't want to have 4 different buttons. I want to have one button that when I click it, it's a drop down for all those. So I have to change this one right here to style. If I go inline subcontrols, then that means they're just flat. Okay, so I do this and they just go brr, and there's nothing there. Okay, if I change it to gang inline subcontrols and then I click on it and hit preview form, now they're all put into one group, and they're a separate set of buttons, but they're ganged together. Okay, but I still don't want that. I want gang subcontrols. Now I look at it and same kind of thing, but now it's a subcontrol and it's got a header on it. Okay, but that's not really what I want. Okay, so I'm going to go back one more time, and then I'm going to go force from tabs. I don't really want. I'm going to go pop-up form. Okay, now when I preview it, I can click on it and it pops up with the options. Okay, so that's what I want. So now I have this render image and render camera chooser. Okay, and it looks pretty good. But what I want to do is I want to put a divider between those two. So I'm going to say new control, add divider, drag it right there, and now I can preview that, and I've got a divider right there. It's pretty sweet. The other thing that I want to do is I want the buttons to stretch all the way across the window. I don't want them to be, just over on this side. I want them to fill the whole window. So what I'm going to do is go to this render tool here and say layout, and I'm going to say toolbar. It's going to be a vertical toolbar. So I click on it, then hit preview form, and now they fill the entire side in a vertical manner from side to side. Okay. If I do horizontal, what it does is it puts them side to side next to each other like that. Okay. Oh, it actually works when you do the preview form. So you can see how they are, but since my toolbar is up and down, I just want to have them vertical. So I'm going to go back here and say vertical. Okay. Now, how do I get this toolbar now that it's ready to go? Okay. If I preview the form, that's what I want. Now that it's ready to go, how do I get it over here? Well, the way you do that is you make this called a form viewer. Okay, so you right click, or you just left click and say form view, and then it brings up this little gear. And when you click that gear, it gives you all the available forms to use in here. Now you'll notice they're in alphabetical order, and my form is not in here. Okay, but what you will notice is if I look over here at the form editor, assembly has an X, brush editor has an X, and look, assembly basic transforms is there by default, and brush editor. Okay, so whatever shows up here has to have an X right here, and that X means it has to be exported. So I can do one of two things. I can either click here to export it like this, or I can click here. You'll see that when I do it, it does it in both places. Okay, so once it's exported, now I can click here and oh, there it is. Barry's Render Tools. There we go. So now they stretch from side to side. There's a divider, and I can click here and I can choose a different camera. And it's got a title bar. Okay, so great. So I have my setup there. Now, I've just saved that in my default config file. Okay, so that's there in my default config file, and everything is here too. So what I need to do is I need to save the form out, and I need to save the layout that then calls the form, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to layout, save. I'm already on my form, so I'm going to say save, and I want to say OK. So now this layout is going to say I'm going to grab this tool, or this, I'm going to create this window, and I'm going to go find that form and put it here. Okay, but on somebody else's machine, I don't want to have to create this form all over again. I just want to have it load up and be there when they open up Modo. That's really easy to do. Because if I don't do that, then they may put in the layout, but it won't find this tool, this toolbar that I created, or these render tools. So one other thing that I'm going to do is, say I want to get rid of this title bar, the header. All I do is I go to here and I go down to viewport controls and I say min header. Okay, now there's no header on it. You can still get, if you look right here, there's a little widget here and a little widget here. Okay, and those two you can still click on those and everything comes up. So I'm going to, once again, I'm going to say layout, save, OK. Now my layout's saved. Okay, and I want to do this. So now what I need to do is save this form. So I'm going to right click, save form, and I'm going to go to that drive, configs, and I'm going to call this render toolbar. Okay, I'm going to save that, say OK. All right, so now what I can do is I've saved my layout, but I need to re-export the layout. So I'm going to close this, have all this open like this. I'm going to say File, Config, Export. I'm going to call it, I'm going to go back to that config, and there's this one that I originally did, and I'm going to call it Barry's Layout 2. Okay, just because I want to keep that other one. So I'm going to call it Layout 2, and I'm going to say just layouts, and I don't want to import it, so OK. All right, so now I've saved those configs out, good to go. I'm going to shut down Modo, and I'm going to go to, oops, not this one, but this one. So this is the default stuff that gets loaded in Modo when it loads. So I'm going to delete all these out, okay, and I'm going to go back one, and I'm going to delete the 701 config. Okay, so now I should start with a blank Modo as if I haven't done anything. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Here we go. It's going to open up and it's going to say, okay, brand new. No, no. Rotate. I'm in trackball rotation. Okay. I don't have my navigation system preferences. Those are still checked. All that stuff. Layout. I don't have my layout anymore. So this is a fresh install. So someone else gets this fresh install and you need to have them look exactly like yours. Well, here's how you do it. Close down Modo. Okay, it just created that default one. Go into your configs, okay, and copy all of these. Copy. Paste. You paste them into that. Now those are going to all be loaded by default when you load Modo. So now, click on Modo to start it up. It's going to start up. Okay, I've got trackball rotation, my navigation, my preferences. Okay, they're unchecked. OpenGL, trackball's off. Everything is there. And I go layout. Oh, there it is. And I click it. Here we are. My form's there. If I go to my form editor, and I can find, and I'll just do Barry's right there, ungrouped Barry's render tool. So I can click it and then undo this, and it takes me right to it. Open it up, render image, divider, render. There it is. Here we go. I can choose any one of these, and it will render that for my scene. So now whoever is getting this has the exact same setup that I just have, all because we had the config files correct, we saved our layouts, and we created our own toolbar. So I'm sure there's probably people who are much better at this than I am, but in the learning process, I wanted to remember it and go through it again, but also maybe help somebody else who's looking for that and not wanting to have to read through all the documentation and try to understand every nuance of it, but just get in there and do it. So hopefully that helps with setting up your config files, exporting your config files, creating a custom layout, creating a custom toolbar, and getting all that stuff so that you can transfer it to somebody else. Now, I'm sure there's ways to create installers that will do this, this whole thing. I'm not a programmer, and creating an installer is another step that I'll have to figure out later. But for now, all you do is you copy and paste into somebody else's config folder. So that's it. If you have any questions, let me know, but hopefully that helps.